The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Insight Pitch with Skip Lockwood. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and I have a special introduction for the man. I'm going to try my voice of the Yankees. Now pitching for the Red Sox, number 38, Skip Lockwood, number 38. What do you think of that, Skip?
That was kind of silky. I think that was beautiful. I think you have a new profession if you want it.
Oh, okay. I got to get something going for when I grow up.
Hopefully we never grow up.
Thank you. That's the spirit of this network, certainly. We have a bunch of folks who remain young and at least at heart. How about that? So, Skip, you have been on a book tour. Your book, Insight Pitch, is really taking off. You were on a national radio show the other day. Would you tell us of your experience?
Yeah, I was asked to go to New York City and speak at the Yale Club for the Red Sox Booster Club in Yale, in New York. And the guy that emceed this show was Ed Randall. And he produces a show that is called WFAN, which is upper state New York, Ithaca, Utica area, I believe. But it's a national program. It's a call-in show. He and I hit it off when we were in New York at the Red Sox Booster Club. It was fun. It was funny. We had to call it off because there was too many jokes and it was too much of a hoot. And so he asked me to come on the show, and I've been on 2 or 3 times now. And a great guy, a good interviewer, and the people call in with questions. And remember, the guy that mowed my mother's lawn, my mother's still alive at 102, the guy that mowed my mother's lawn called in and said he was listening to the show.
And how does that...
Hilarious.
I mean, that by the end of the day, with something like that, you have to be glowing that all the sweat and strain that you're remembered. Great feeling, right?
It's wonderful. The Red Sox have Autograph Alley every night on the home games, and there's some old-timer like me, an alumni from the Sox, signing autographs for free in Autograph Alley. And I do that like once a homestand is a little bit too much, but I do it 10 times a year or so. And that's a hoot. I enjoy that. The people line up. The kids, we take pictures. Last week I was doing it. A little girl came over. I signed the autographed picture, and she says to her mother, "This guy scribbled all over my picture."
Boy, that
I had no idea what it was.
I was talking to somebody about collecting baseball cards and how sometimes the autograph depreciates the cost of the card if you wanted to sell it. And sometimes the autograph increases the cost of the card. It's a weird hobby. But people don't generally, I don't think people get your autograph and say, boy, I'm going to put this on eBay and I'm going to turn my profit for the day or any of that thing. People still want to collect autographs, get the feeling of getting to know you and share it. I don't think it's become commercialized to that extent, and I hope you feel that way, and I hope you get that when you meet these people.
I get autograph requests every week, every day, but I get probably 50 a week, and I write everyone back. I sign all the cards. Sometimes they'll send me multiple cards. I have a feeling like if I'm signing 3 or 4 of the same year card, that they're going to sell them. But I sign them, and I send them back, and people, I think, genuinely appreciate that. I get long, handwritten notes. I had several times where people decorated the envelope with pictures and pictures of me and hand-drawn stencils of my pitching, and just wonderful things. People, they do remember. Many saw me pitch, some didn't see me pitch, but they remember the uniform and they remember that I was with the Mets all those years. And it's a wonderful gift that I get to be able to have people continue to remember me.
Wow, nice. May I ask how you came to be number 38? Because I save up these questions in the time that we're not together on the air, and I introduce you, number 38. How did that happen?
I have no idea. I showed up. That was the uniform that was in my locker. It was the one I was given. I never once asked for a special number. It was the number that was on the uniform that was in my locker, and that's what I wore.
Okay. Consequently, when you went to the Red Sox, you were given the same number 38.
Yep, I was.
Was
I think
that
I was I was the first free agent the Red Sox ever signed, and it was a privilege to get a chance to pitch in front of Boston fans, in front of my hometown, in front of my parents and classmates from high school. And I think they gave that in honor of being the first free agent. They gave me the number. I don't think anybody else had it. And if they had, I might have offered them some money for it or something like that. But that was the number that was on the uniform with New York and Boston. I don't know how it got there, to be honest with you.
All right. Here's another question from the back of my mind. When you went to Boston, was there, because I talked to Al Clark about this, when you went from the National League to the American League, he says a strike's a strike. What do you say to the differences in strike zones between the two leagues?
I thought there was a big difference. First of all, when I first started to pitch, the umpires wore those balloon protectors, and the American League umpires would be right behind the catcher. The National League umpires would be in between the batter and the catcher. And I thought at that time the National League was a tougher league to pitch in because you couldn't get the outside corner as well. In the American League, you couldn't get the low pitch as well as you could in the National League. So I thought it was different. Sinker ball pitcher pitching in the National League, I think, had an advantage. I was never a sinker ball pitcher. I always felt like when the umpire was in between the player and the catcher, the batter and the catcher, he didn't give me the outside corner. And I really, especially, the way I pitched, mostly off fastballs, and it was a with the four-seam, cross-seam fastball, I needed that outside corner. I had to have life to my pitch. The ball needed to sail out there, and I needed the umpire to be able to see it. So I found it difficult between the two leagues when I first started out. I always thought that one of the difference between the National and American League was artificial turf. The National League had artificial turf. The American League didn't for years. So that favored a ground ball pitcher, a sinker ball pitcher in the National League, and a high ball pitcher, a cross-seam fastball pitcher in the National League. That contracted. I don't think the difference between the two leagues was as magnified. But if you're a known commodity, like I was in the National League, I could steal a strike. I mean, if Brody or Stearns were catching, and I could demonstrate command of home plate, I could throw to the catcher's mitt, then I would get a pitch. If you're throwing a pitch on one side of the plate and the catcher's sitting on the other side of the plate, even though you might catch a corner of it, the umpire is just not going to give you that pitch. So in the National League, I demonstrated that I could pitch the plate, hit the mitt. And when I got back to the American League with the Red Sox, they had amnesia. They didn't remember that I was able to do that. And to be honest with you, I didn't have my best stuff. And so I had trouble coming back to Boston because I needed to be able to pitch the plate like I could, and I just wasn't getting the pitches in the American League the way I was in the National League.
Okay, I can appreciate that. Let's get back to your radio appearance with Mr. Randall. He's a professional. He's done it for a long time. You and I have been talking on 6, 7 different occasions, maybe 8 or 9 at this point, about your life and what have you. And I like to think I've asked you some good questions, but I'd like to learn from the pros around me. Who asked you a question that was, or did Mr. Randall ask you anything that you said, wow, that's a great question, and something I might not have asked you?
He asked a lot of questions about my years with the Pilots, and when I first came into the league, signing the contract and being with the Kansas City A's. He was very interested in my Jesse Owens story that's in my book, and the Satchel Paige story that also is in the book.
Right.
He clearly had read the text and was fascinated by the people that I met along the way. So he wanted me to tell stories as much as I could about, Catfish Hunter and Joe Rooney and the guys that I played with the early A's. So he was asking questions relative to the people that came along with me, as opposed to what was it like to coming to the team and that stuff. He was more interested in the people that I was playing against. Jesse Owens was an extraordinary story. Just to go back, way back to when I was playing third base. Jesse Owens came down specifically to break to Florida, to spring training, to help Bert Campaneris and I run better, to be better runners, to get better steps and to have more clear thinking about how to run and to use his techniques that Jesse, this is a guy that won the Olympic Games in front of Hitler and all these. This is an extraordinary talent. Here he was
in 1936.
Amazing.
Wow. Now, here's a connect to this network. I don't know if you're familiar with George Case III. His dad was an outfielder with the Senators and Cleveland in the 30s and 40s. And he was in a famous race with Jesse Owens. Jesse beat him, but George was wearing his baseball uniform and did like a 10 flat 100, and Jesse beat him, but it was a famous race in the big leagues, and George has a podcast on this network. Some sort of connect about baseball that's incredible. Also, Bert Campaneris is a mutual friend of mine, and the Doc Pearson, the late Doc Pearson, who was the spring training doctor with the A's, and he took care of Bert and just introduced me to him and brought him up to the Bay Area for some Oakland reunion. So there's a connect about baseball that one can talk about a story and it always brings you full circle. Am I right about that?
Oh, I think you connect. I think the stories from baseball connect to other stories, to other people. Campy was an extraordinary person. You remember he was famous for playing all the positions in one game.
Yes.
So Charlie Finley had Charlie was famous for events and wanted to have celebrations at the ballpark, and so he had a special day for Campy, and they presented him with some trophies and stuff. And that day he pitched. He played catcher, first base, second base, all the positions. And I don't think he got to, because they won the game, I don't think he got up in the last of the ninth inning because it was a home game. So he may have only played 8 positions because he was going to, I think it was one of those things we didn't get a chance to play the last position because of the timing situation.
Didn't know that.
He played every single position. He was a pretty good pitcher. He was a very good catcher and all-star shortstop. So he was just extraordinary at everything he did.
And the sweetest disposition you could ask for. Always a smile on his face. Nancy Finley, our mutual friend, tells me stories about Campy and how the Kansas City Times could be harrowing for a franchise, and he helped keep that team together. You were blessed with some great teammates. The glider, Ed Charles, who broke you in at third base. Like I say, Campy. Did you play with Vic Power at all?
Yeah, Vic was there. I don't think he was there the whole year. I remember the coaches. I remember Gabby Hartnett and Luke Appling were the coaches that year. Wow. Hartnett was a catcher, and he used to work with the catchers. And Luke Appling and I used to sit together because I didn't play, and Luke was a coach. We used to sit on the bench together. He'd talk baseball all the time, spitting tobacco juice all over your feet. Luke was an unbelievable personality. So he was a great guy.
He was famous for fouling balls off and wearing pitchers out. And they called him Old Aches and Pains. I wonder how he got that nickname. Did you ever ask him that?
This is Appling now or Ed Charles?
Yeah. No.
Appling? Yeah, Luke, they called him Aches and Pains. And because he was always in the whirlpool. I never saw him before the ball game that he wasn't in the whirlpool holding court in the whirlpool in the trainer's room smoking a cigar. And the ashes were spilling all over the water. And he knew so much about the game, and he was perceptive, insightful. And, he came up, I guess, in the Depression era or whenever he came up and worked his way into being a shortstop. But he knew the subtleties of it. The game that you're talking about, that he was able to foul off all those foul balls, like 25 foul balls. I don't know the exact amount, so don't quote me on this, but there was some big number of foul balls, more than 20. And he did it on purpose because before the game, he had thrown a ball into a kid's hands in the stands as he was coming off the field. And the owners of the Cubs at that time, White Sox, called down and cost him $100 for throwing that ball away. And because you weren't supposed to throw it, you weren't supposed to fraternize,
right.
You weren't supposed to throw the balls in the stands. And so it made Luke mad. And so he says, I'll be damned. And he says, this is going to cost him more than $100 because those are $20 balls. And I'm going to hit him into the stands. And every time it hit a foul ball, they'd look up into the owner's box and and then he'd hit another foul ball and look up there. He was a talent.
So that's the kind of mischievous personality he had.
He would look like
a good
Popeye.
insight.
His forearms were so big, and from all those years, he just looked like Popeye to me. He was such a strong, short but virile guy. He hit a home run. He hit a home run in an all-star in an old-timers game, you know. And he was facing, I think it was Warren Spahn in an old-timers game, and Luke was in his 80s, and he takes him deep. He takes him deep.
Wow, indeed. Brings me to a question. You talk about guys becoming bulked up. This was, when you played, it was before weightlifting, and I think weightlifting was discouraged because there was an expression back then called muscle bound. Now, we don't hear that anymore, but if extra bulk could have restricted one's baseball skills and abilities to move this, that, and the other thing, besides just the raw power that it gives you. Don't we hear about that today in a day and age where if PEDs aren't involved, there's still a tremendous amount of injuries and a tremendous amount of bulking up? Could you speak to that?
Well, you know, when I played, we used to lift weights. One weight was 12 ounces, and the other weight was 16 ounces. And
I think did it have a little tab on the top of it?
It had a tab on the top. Yeah, that added weight to it, so you could take that off.
All right. Well, the tabs for the days you don't want to really push it and work out. You take
We were very much discouraged from lifting, especially. I was told, don't bring anything towards you. So don't build up your bicep muscles. So I was never encouraged to lift weights that brought things towards me. I could push them away. So that was the back of the arm, and the tricep muscles were better muscles to work on. We were always just told to play baseball. If you want to get stronger and better, swing the bat, throw the ball, play the game. You're going to work on the right muscles if you're swinging a bat. So we swing.
So what do you say to this epidemic of pitch counts? And I want to talk to you about that in a second. But and this apparent coddling of players, not that it's doing any good because injuries are increasing.
I don't know that. It seems to me that they are. Maybe you just hear about them more. I'm not sure. I think the biggest thing that's changed baseball is free agency. And today's athlete is not a commodity. We were commodities. We were expendable, interchangeable, tradable. We were commodities, and a pitcher could be replaced by another pitcher. Today, the franchises have, these guys are assets. These are guys on multi-year contracts so the pitch count and everything has to do with the team's ability to retain them. They want them to play the contract. They want them to play 4 or 5 years. They want them to play well, but they have an idea about how to use them. So I think it's very smart. I think the players in general are in much better shape than I was ever in. I wish I had gotten myself in shape. I would have played better. You couldn't have played, and not been in shape. In today's ball game, there's very few guys that you see, maybe CC or Sebastian or somebody like that looks to be in shape. But you don't know. Maybe they are for their height and their weight. But I was never allowed to lift or we wanted to run. I think today the athletes are singularly better in strength and endurance. And why are they getting hurt? I think it's because when you come up through the system, pitchers threw curveballs and breaking pitches without supervision. I think there's a way to throw a breaking pitch so it doesn't cut off circulation to your arm. It doesn't pinch the ulnar nerve in your elbow. I think the way that the kids come up today is, it's just, you have to get to the big leagues. That's where the money is. The pressure's on. So if you're an A-ball or rookie ball or someplace like that, you're not making any money. The pressure is to get to the big leagues. Anything you can do to get there is the way to go. I think that causes injuries today.
Okay. I can see not throwing a curveball in high school, but once you become a pro, is there a restriction, or should there be a restriction in curveballs? You got to judge your talent. You got to display your talent.
Right.
It becomes difficult.
Oh, I don't think there should be a restriction on curveballs, but I think the way you throw a curveball, the mechanical way that you release a changeup or a split-fingered fork. We didn't have split-fingered pitches. We didn't have those kind of changeups that they throw today that fade away from the batters the way they do that today. A right-handed pitcher, probably one of the most powerful pitches they have today is that little fade changeup that just looks like a fastball and fades away. The way you throw
Greg Maddux type pitch.
Oh man, the mechanics of that pitch you have to learn. Somebody has to teach you. So if you try to teach it to yourself or just try to pick it up, without having supervision, I think you can hurt yourself.
Okay. Let me ask you, I've asked a few other people about this. My thinking is that if one just counts pitches in the pitch count, and you say, well, this guy pitched 100 pitches, he's done, or, that's what his limit is. Aren't the statistics skewed by the number of pitches the pitcher must make under trying circumstances when he has to reach back to get a little extra, this, that, and the other thing? And, he could have 100 pitches, and 20 of them may be that way, or 100 pitches that are nice and free, easy, no pressure. You understand what I'm saying? Or
oh yeah, I do.
Sense?
I think that, yeah. I think the pitch count is one of many indicators as to whether the pitcher's getting tired or not. You don't hear it, but there's communications on the bench with the catcher and the pitcher. The pitching coach knows exactly, I think it's pitch angle and where the elbow is in relationship to the shoulder. And, you want to throw your pitches on a downward arc if you possibly can. You don't want to push them, and you don't want to be on the same level as the bat if you can. You want to be throwing, using the mound. As pitchers get tired, the arm drops a little bit, and that's instantaneously recognizable by the manager. And so if you combine that with a pitch count that's coming up, the heat in the day, and how many, as you say, the effort pitches, the duress pitches that you have to make in tough situations. There's an easy inning and there's tough innings. If you're a sinker ball pitcher, you can sink it a couple times and get a couple of quick outs, ground balls. That's great. Those are stress-free. But,
yeah. Well, imagine an inning where you had to face Luke Appling, and he's pissed at the owner and Comiskey, it must have been, and he's fouling ball after ball off and taking it out on you.
What hit him.
Pitches in an at-bat is you're out of the game by the next inning.
I know it.
No.
You use yourself up.
Yeah.
I think there's different kind of pitches. Guys that go out there and are throwing free and easy with a long arm, free, easy motion. they can get more innings out of those guys. I see a lot of guys that really look like they're working so hard out there. You can grimacing and you're trying extra hard. You're not going to get a lot of innings out of that guy.
Okay. Got one final question for you. You're one of the few people I know who's pitched to my hero, Jerry Grody. If Jerry Grody were on the Reds, would Johnny Bench be playing third base?
No, I don't think so. I think Johnny Bench was one of the greatest catchers. I never threw to him. I can't tell you what he was like to throw to, but I know his reputation as a receiver and teammate and everything. Jerry Grody ran under the radar. He was a fierce competitor. He was a guy that would instinctually do things that would aggravate the batter, throw pebbles at his feet. And he was always talking to the batter about stuff and talking to the umpire. And in the middle of the pitch, he'd say something to the umpire. And, he always was trying to get a leg up. It's something he could work on. I loved throwing to Jerry Grody. He was a good catcher for me. He was small, but he framed the pitch well. I like a catcher to hold the glove for me. I don't want him, when I start to warm up, to relax or to move or to change the glove from one side to another. I want him to hold it there. I want to see it while I'm warming up. I don't want it to change. And Jerry Grody did that really well. We seem to have simpatico in terms of what pitches to throw and when to throw them. So it took the pressure off me. I wasn't the decider on what to pitch. He was the decider. He knew the guys in the league. So he'd put down one, and you wouldn't dare shake him off because he had a good fastball himself. So if you shake him
right
off,
back to you.
He's going to buzz you with it. So I thought he was, for me at the time when I came to the big league, as an into the bullpen and had to rely on somebody, boy, he was a godsend.
Nice. Hey, thank you, Skip. This has been, as usual with you, a cup of tea. It's fun for me.
The time goes by quickly with you. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. That's a nice compliment. And let's do it again next week, same time, same bat station.
Sounds great to me. I'll be here.
All right. Be well, my friend, and tell me what you shot after you. Last time we talked, you shot your age golfing.
I did. Huh?
What'd you shoot the next time you went out?
Probably 85. I was still gloating.
All right. Well, let's hope you live to be 85.
Not 85 yet.
No, but you'll live to be 85. You will remember this game.
I hope so.
All right. Thank you, Skip.
Be well, Ralph.
Be well, and see you down the baseball road.
Will do. I'll be here.
All right. Adios, everybody. Thanks for listening.